Hello and welcome to Book of the Mouse Club, episode 85, Friday, December 9th, 2022.
Morning, monsieur.
Where are you off to?
The bookshop. I just finished the most wonderful story about a beanstalk and an ogre and...
That's nice. Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
I'm sorry, but how can one possibly pay attention to a book with no pictures in it?
My dear child, there are a great many good books in this world without pictures.
I almost bounced clear out of the book. Some bouncing, huh?
Come home or make myself known.
J. Thaddeus Turtle, Esquire. Have you never met him? You will find his story in this delightful little book, The Wind and the Willows.
I've come to return the book I borrowed.
Finished already?
Oh, I couldn't put it down. Have you got anything new?
Welcome back. I'm your host, Courtney, and I'm joined as always by the legend to my Splat, my lovely co-host, Emily.
Hey, Courtney, those were such cute animals. I can't wait to talk about these characters.
Lots of fun characters in this episode. Just as a heads up, this is our last planned episode of 2022, and we are pleased to once again dive into the art of the latest Disney film, thanks to our friends at Chronicle Books, who sent us the art of Disney's Strange World. So Strange World was created by the talented team of animators at Walt Disney Feature Animation and released during Thanksgiving weekend of 2022. I loved the synopsis of the film that accompanied the book jacket, so I'd like to read from that now if you're unfamiliar with the story. Quote, as legend has it, the destiny of the people of Avalonia is to reconnect with the world beyond the impossible mountains that surround their home. But for Searcher Clade, a wholesome farmer and son of the world-class explorer Jaeger Clade, he much prefers to have his feet firmly planted on the ground, tending to his farm. Meanwhile, Searcher's son Ethan is an exuberant young adventurer inspired to follow his grandfather Jaeger's footsteps. But when Avalonia is in danger, it is up to Searcher and Ethan to travel deep into the strange and unknown territory to save their home. Join the Clades, their lovable three-legged dog legend, and the rest of the Venture crew in this tale of an extraordinary journey to a world unknown where fantastical creatures await. End quote. So that is just a little teaser for the film. Emily, would you care to give us a background on this art book itself?
Sure. And again, thank you to our friends at Chronicle Books for continuing to build our library full of concept art. This has been a really fun journey getting to dive more into these art books. So Art of Strange World was released ahead of the film on November 1st. And the film was released, like you said, Thanksgiving weekend, heading into Thanksgiving. So November 22nd, 23rd. And here is a description from the book from Chronicle Books, their description that they sent us. The Art of Strange World is the ultimate guide to the creative process that brought this dazzling film possible. Filled with fantastical creatures and beautiful landscapes, this vibrant behind-the-scenes book includes colorful concept art, illustrative storyboards, character designs, and insights from the creative minds behind this imaginative, action-packed film. The Art of Strange World celebrates the art of this thrill-seeking film and is a must-have for anyone curious about the magic of animation. The authors of the book are Juan Pablo Reyes Lancaster Jones, who is a senior creative executive at Walt Disney Animation and is one of the authors as well as for The Art of Encanto and worked on both films. The other author, Kalikolehua Hurley, is the senior manager, D&I content and cultural strategist of the Walt Disney Animation Studios and is led a lot of the cultural efforts behind Strange World as well as on Encanto, Raya and the Last Dragon, and Frozen 2 and Moana. She's also an author on Art of Raya and the Last Dragon, which we covered on this podcast, and also has her own children's books. So quite a few, both authors are experienced in writing these art books, as well as some of their own stories. This is going to be our official spoiler warning. We are going to talk about this film in depth, including all of the twists and plot turns. So if you have not seen Strange World and are hoping to do so, maybe take a pause and come back. But otherwise, hope you enjoy our conversation here. And to kick us off, let's just start with overall impressions of the film. What did you think?
Okay, well, I didn't really know what to expect going into it because I feel like no shade to Disney. Again, all views are my own, but it wasn't strongly marketed.
Not at all.
Like, I would not have been able to tell you what this film was about before going into it.
And especially because it was to theaters. It's not straight to Disney Plus. So when I don't remember the first time I heard about it, but I remember I texted you when I saw a trailer for it for the first time, which was a YouTube ad. Was the first time, I think is when I texted you, I saw a YouTube ad. I was like, there's a new movie coming out. And you're like, yeah.
I saw Marcel the Shell with Shoes On in the cinemas like earlier this summer. And that was the first time I saw a trailer, but also like I have not gone to the movies as much as I did pre-pandemic. So I saw that and I was like, oh, okay. And then never heard anything else. And that was probably like 6 months, maybe 4 to 6 months before this film came out, and just like forgot about it. And then we got this book and I was like, oh yeah, I should go see that. So all that to say, I liked the film more than I expected, but I didn't quite know what to expect. So a weird feeling there. But ultimately, I actually really did like this film. I was kind of like, I don't know what this is about, but I enjoyed the journey that it took me on. And it got me excited to read the book, which I know we'll get into like the order of that in a moment. But what did you take from the film as well?
Same. I really enjoyed it. I didn't see it right away when it came out. Like, I think you saw it within the first week. I just saw it a couple days ago from this recording. I was sick all through Thanksgiving, so I was not going anywhere.
Smart. That is safe. We appreciate that.
But like, I was a little sad. I was hoping to do that. Like, usually with my family, we tend to go see whatever newest movie release comes out over Thanksgiving. We haven't been able to do that in the last couple of years. But I was hoping like this year, I was like, yes, we can kind of go back to doing that again. And we didn't get to. So I did get to see a couple things on the internet about it, of people saying like how much they liked it and visually stunning. So I was looking forward to that. And then I saw some funny memes of people like comparing it to Treasure Planet. We're like, oh, you want a action adventure movie that's not a musical and has a character who's amorphous? It's like, oh yeah, we have that. But I didn't think it was like Treasure Planet. I think they're very distinctive films. But I was seeing like memes and stuff pop up about it, so I wasn't really sure what to expect going in. But overall, it seemed like most of the internet that was talking about it was like, it was a good film. And I agreed. I really enjoyed it. I had a couple moments I legitimately laughed out loud in the theater. I had the theater to myself and one other family when I went. I went like at 5:00 on a Tuesday.
$5 Tuesdays.
So yeah, not a lot of people are going at 5:00 on a Tuesday. So I had the theater to myself, but it was so fun. I really enjoyed the film. There was a lot of great things and great firsts for Disney in this film that I'm excited for us to talk about. So overall, I really enjoyed it. And I wish they gave it some more marketing behind it, because you're right, especially for only going into the theaters. I thought they'd have a lot more marketing, but we saw so much more for like Disenchanted, which was straight to Disney Plus.
Hocus Pocus 2, same thing.
Hocus Pocus 2. I don't know what what's driving marketing, that if they want to try to push more people to subscribe to Disney Plus, which is why those exclusives are getting this.
But then I feel like they should have done what they did for Raya, where it got the dual, like, hey, you can pay $30 on Disney Plus, or you can go to the cinema. Because I did go with Doug, and he's like, wait, can we buy this one on Disney Plus? Because I'd kind of rather do that than go to the cinema. And I was like, nope, I gotta go to the movies.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I enjoyed going back to movies. I legitimately love going to the movie theater. But yeah, I was surprised that this didn't get as much hype, and I really wish it did, because I think this is such a great family film and it's incredibly current.
Yeah, I hope it does kind of like Encanto did. I mean, Encanto, I believe, I don't have the figures in front of me, like still did well on Thanksgiving weekend last year, but was like, oh, it kind of underperformed or whatever. But then it went to Disney Plus for Christmas Eve and then like really took off.
Yeah, look where it is now
from there. So I hope that people choose to watch this film when it inevitably comes to Disney Plus, because I thought it was a good story. I mean, ultimately, I love a Disney animated musical. Like, that is always my bread and butter. And so there's a song at the beginning, which was fun, but like, it's not a musical.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I think the music helps you revisit it, though. Like, that's what we like about the musicals. Like, I don't have to rewatch the film. I can just listen to the music and feel like I'm like engaging with it, whereas like Raya and the Last Dragon, amazing movie.
Should have been a musical. I said that on the episode.
Yes, you did say that. But I haven't revisited it as much as other musicals.
Because it wasn't.
Watched it, but it's just not one that I immediately go to, because normally if I put on a Disney musical, it's because I want the background noise. I want the comfort as I'm doing laundry or doing things. So I do see where the appeal of the musicals comes from. But, you know, I'm one of those rare people who loves the Disney films that are not musicals. I loved Treasure Planet. I loved Atlantis. So I'm here if we are in a new era of like, let's getting action movies kind of. And
no, I get it.
Some musicals as well.
I'm not saying it's bad, but just like in terms of where I rank stuff, like,
yeah,
not big on Treasure Planet or Atlantis. They're fine.
But I do hope this one comes to Disney Plus soon. At the time of this recording, it's only been available in theaters for about, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks now. So hopefully it'll be on Disney Plus. If it's like Encanto, probably by Christmas, because I think this would be a fun one. Like I would watch this with my mom. Would love this movie. I think she'd love Splat and think Splat is hysterical, which we are going to talk about. So when we got this book in the mail, we both said we were surprised. We're like, oh yeah, new movie's coming. Did you immediately open the book, or did you go to the movie first?
I had wanted to open the book because I did feel like I could tell from the cover of this book that it's very like not Pulp Fiction, the Quentin Tarantino film, but like actual pulp novels of the 1940s, like the Indiana Jones-esque font. I was like, all right, like this cover showing the family and the strange world itself has me intrigued, and I meant to read the book before the film, which I don't usually do. But then I'm glad I did my usual thing and didn't, because after seeing the film and how visually stunning it was, I was like, I'm really excited to read this art book and see what they have to say.
So I felt motivated. I was like, I'm going to read it as soon as I got it. I was actually, when the book came in the mail, I was between my own books in my personal to be read list. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'll read this one instead before I start my next one, because I'm in between books. And I started reading it, and I got through all of Jaeger-Claude's description. And we said, spoiler warning, I'm going to throw it out there. It says that, like, we think he dies, but he's actually alive. And at that point, I was like, oh, am I going to get too many spoilers before I see the film? So I did stop. So I got about 50 pages in. And then was like, I'm going to take a pause and come back to it. And I'm glad I did, because there are some things like at the end when we finally see the world that they're on, the turtle. The whole time, once we saw the eye, I was like, oh, we're on the back of a thing. That's amazing. And then they don't show us right away what the whole world looks like. And I'm like, but what does it look like? What are we on the back of?
Is that turtle?
I was looking for that. So I'm kind of glad I didn't read the book, because I would have seen that. There's 2 pages of content.
But I noticed there were no captions on that one.
Yes,
I was like,
there
okay,
were no captions. Super
it's
smart.
not really a spoiler if you don't know it's a spoiler, but it could be.
But you're still waiting for it.
But I wish there had been captions, because it's like, I want to know more about the turtle.
Yeah, now I want to know more. But yeah, so we both came to the book after, which is the thing what most we've done so far. This is our 4th art of episode, and I think that's kind of been our normal approach, is to see the movie, then come back to the artwork.
It's just weird, because I was really planning to do the opposite for this one, and I absolutely didn't. But then I was like, oh, no, it's probably better that I didn't, so I might just stick with that from now on.
Yeah, so as always, these books are meant to supplement and tell you some more about the films that we see. So what did you take away from the book that we didn't get from the film?
I got a lot more character development.
Yes.
I had shared in the Art of Turning Red that we did earlier this year, like I wanted more background in maybe that one. I know I've said that about one of the art books, like, oh, I wanted...
Red didn't have as much text.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. And this one did, and there were these full storyboards, which I found interesting, because if you did not see the film, it did not make it clear that, like, these storyboards are absolutely not in the film. It was almost like getting a deleted scene in the form of the book, but we got a lot more about the characters and the background that shaped them, that personally I feel like would have benefited from staying in the film, but I completely get it from a pacing standpoint. But I appreciated getting those backstories. like meridians, especially. That's the
That was the
mom.
one I was going to bring up. That yeah, she's a stunt pilot growing up. Also, a lot of the relationship building between Searcher and his son Ethan. That we do get some of that in the film. I think one storyboard that is in here is the kitchen scene, which I absolutely loved. Them cooking and as a family cooking dinner together. But yeah, all the extra storyboards, relationships between Searcher and his father Jaeger, and definitely Meridian's story. I was like, what? She's a fighter pilot. I love Meridian. She's probably after Splat. I think Meridian might be my favorite character. I thought she was really cool. But yeah, so from this, I like the storyboards and that the pacing of the book is built around those storyboards. So you get to see a little bit of that story development. And then they talked about the art that went into that. I also really enjoyed getting to know more about where some of the design choices came from, which I thought was really cool. Like, what is it? Pando, which is the
energy source.
The energy source, the plant, where they pulled that. It's from Brussels sprouts. They were inspired by Brussels sprouts for that.
When they first showed up, they looked like Brussels sprouts to me.
Right,
so
they do.
Like, okay, thank you for confirming my interpretation of how
I also was really curious, like, when you're making something like Strange World, that it's weird that it is a science fiction, but while it is incredibly futuristic, it's also not. It's not like
steampunk
spacey futuristic.
Yeah, it's like
how
Jules
Wall-E
Verne
is like futuristic. It looks like this could literally happen tomorrow, but at the same time,
but also like in the 1800s, I think, because I was getting Jules Verne steampunk vibe, very in the vein. I'm just thinking of this now. Discoveryland in Disneyland Paris, which is their version of Tomorrowland, is all Victorian steampunk. Yes, not as chrome. A lot more pink and vibrant colors, but I think mostly the airships that they like fly in with like the balloons on top, I don't know, it's giving me like around the world. And
yeah, it has that adventure vibe in steampunk. Jules Verne, that fits that adventure vibe as well.
It would fit really well in Discoveryland in Paris.
So I liked learning more about that and how, especially with all the crazy creatures that we see in the Strange World, they said they wanted to really boil down all of like those creatures. Like most of them reminded me of dinosaurs, down to, they said, their most simplistic form and their literal function. So while you're trying to think of like, how do you become, like, the film's just incredibly creative with the setting and all these different creatures that you see, the wildlife of the Strange World. And I was like, how do you come up with this? And they're like, oh, if their job is to, like, one of them that I thought looked like Stegosaurus, the one with the really long neck, their job is just to like move things around. They said they designed it after a rope. A rope you would pull it and it would move stuff from one place to another. So like the simplicity behind the design being also how it became such a creative and complex world was really fascinating to me.
Yeah, I feel we got a lot of background development information in this one, which is what I wanted from one of the others. And I was like,
where they got the colors from,
the beats that I needed and what I would want from an art book.
Yeah, they addressed everything from textile choices to lighting to color to character design, which was really
Let's talk about characters. I think we already spoiled who our favorite character is. But
I want to talk about a lot of characters, but we are going to start with Splat, and I want to read a page here. They gave us a lot about Splat in two parts of this book. So I'm going to turn to page 114 real quick. And here's a little description about Splat if you have not seen him. So here's the description of Splat from Don Hall, the director. Splat lives in the Strange World. Its design is based on an immune system cell known as a dendritic cell, which is where the scouts of the immune system. They're kind of like little thieves, sussing about new things that enter the body and stealing parts of it to present to the attack cells, which is exactly what Splat does. Everyone, like, the way they interact with Splat is Ethan, it's like, oh, take me to your family. And then Jaeger's like, no, they're the scouts. And it makes sense in the film, but as soon as they said, oh, it's a dendrite cell and this is what dendrites do, it's completely the function of Splat and Splat's other dendrite cell friends in the film, which I thought was really cool.
The only thing I remember about cells from biology is that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
And there's a little bit more here about the from the art director, Jin Kim. Splat's the very first character we designed. We wanted to make Splat as appealing as possible, very likable and huggable, like the character Baymax from Big Hero 6, but even more simple than Baymax, who has eyes but not a mouth. Splat has no eyes and no mouth. It only has legs and arms. Its initial design was a big bowl shape with long legs. When Splat first came to life in initial walk and test runs, everyone fell in love with the character. And right, Splat doesn't talk, pantomimes the whole time, which I thought was brilliant. It has great gags.
I have a great follow-up quote to that actually on the next page, 116, from Meredad Isvandi, the production designer. And their quote says, quote, "In the beginning, Splat's designs looked like they were based off jellyfish and octopi, sometimes having faces, sometimes not. Don Hall then pitched looking at pantomime for inspiration, removing the eyes and mouth entirely, having a character similar to Aladdin's magic carpet that would have to communicate completely visually was inspiring and energizing to all the artists in the film, and Splat as we know it was born." I felt that was a great comparison. I was like, oh my gosh, it totally is the way the magic carpet functions.
It is.
In Aladdin.
So Splat is so fun. And the pantomiming was great because then you have the characters trying to guess what Splat is trying to say. And eventually you see them get better at it. Like throughout the film, they don't guess as much. I think probably the best gag for me was when they're trapped in the closet and they're trying to get the dog to open the door. And then Splat finally flattens themselves, comes out of the door, unlocks it, and then goes back in and then lets the dog open it. And they're all like, really? You could have done this the whole time. It's so simple, but it's so genius.
It's like Rizzo in Muppet Christmas Carol when he jumps over the gate, but then goes to get his jelly beans.
It's so simple, and it's so good every time.
They knew what they were doing, though, because one of the characters aboard the Venture says, "It's so cute. I want to merchandise him." And I was like, "Oh, that is on the nose. If this does well, absolutely merchandising."
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about some other characters. So I want to talk about Ethan real quick because Ethan is the character that attaches most to Splat. And Ethan is an incredibly important character for the Walt Disney Studios because I believe Ethan is the first completely out LGBTQ character.
Yeah, there's been other characters with like illusions. Like there's one in Jungle Cruise, and it's implied that LeFou is gay in the live action Beauty and the Beast, but they're easily cuttable for foreign markets, whereas I felt this was very clear, like that is who he is. You're not going to cut around it.
Yep, you cannot extract that. So here's a quote from James Woods, a visual development artist. "Strange World is a utopian place free of prejudice, which isn't the reality of our world. I think it's refreshing and encouraging to see a young character who is freely himself without any idea that he should be anything but who he is. Being LGBTQ plus myself, he is one of the most fulfilling characters I have ever worked on." And it's true throughout the film. As a teacher who works with LGBTQ youth, I am the Gender and Sexuality Alliance sponsor for my school. I teach LGBTQ studies. Discussions I have with my students is very much, they're always like, it's going to be a coming out story. It's any LGBTQ story, most of the time, there's got to be that element of coming out or facing that prejudice. And while those conversations are important, especially for the world we live in, sometimes my students are like, I would love to just have a story where it just exists. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to explain it. And that's what I absolutely loved about Ethan and the way his family talks about, because he has a crush. Yeah, so when his family asks him about his crush Diazo, and he says, oh yeah, his name's Diazo, no one bats an eye or says anything. So I really hope my students, and I want this to come to Disney Plus so badly, just for these moments alone that I think are going to be so affirming and are just so wholesome. And even I was getting all giddy, remembering my first crushes in high school. Regardless of gender, we can all relate to that feeling of your parents embarrassing you in front of your crush. And I think it's such a great story that's so relatable. And I was so excited that this was part of the film.
Yeah, there's no big quote coming out moment like you said, because in the beginning when they're still at the farm, it's clear that Ethan's dad Searcher already knows about the crush, and he's like, oh, there's your friend. Like, you know, the embarrassing ways that parents can be, but it's not, oh, Ethan has to share this secret that he's been hiding. No, he very clearly has a crush, and like you said, it's just a very human experience that transcends genders.
And that was a very big part of the film in Avalonia. So another quote here from Sang Jun Lee, a visual development artist, again on the film, said, Avalonians are very diverse in terms of racial background, body type, gender, and identity. We really wanted our audiences to see themselves in our world. Avalonians are pre-Pando times wear costumes that are grayer, worn, and uniform to reflect their harsh environment. During post-Pando times, Avalonians had access to many more resources, and as a result, their costumes become more colorful. We also developed many other aspects of their culture, including a written language just for them. And that was one of the first things you texted me when I was done in the film. Of course, we always talk about, listeners, you should not be surprised. We text each other immediately. And the first thing you told me was you were so incredibly impressed. I talked about Ethan, and you're like, but their whole cast is incredibly diverse in every aspect of the word.
Really, what I think I honed in on especially was the range of body types, because I feel often in Disney animation, don't get me wrong, I love Disney princesses, but there's a very uniform look to them. Rapunzel and Anna and Elsa very clearly look related. They're fun. I love princesses. We've devoted an entire episode to the art of the princesses. But I felt the women were shown with, you know, more attainable body types, a wide variety. The captain of the ship, she's very tall and broad-shouldered. Meridian, the mom, has curves. It just felt like a healthy depiction of a wide range of bodies, and that warmed my heart.
Yeah, overall, such an incredible, diverse cast. And like you said, it is, as was described, this is a utopian world, in a sense, free of prejudice, that is completely open to racial background, body type, gender, and identity. But once you put it on screen, it does make it more attainable. And I loved that about this film so much that alone is enough to make me want to revisit this film apart from the story. So we should talk about Searcher briefly. Searcher and Jaeger, because they are such integral characters. Searcher, Jaeger, and Ethan, what did you think about their relationship?
I mean, it's definitely a father-son story, but I feel as a woman, you know, there's still lots to relate to of hope for future generations and thinking about the legacy that we leave for others. I liked the distinct visual style set up between them. That was part of the background where they shared, you know, Jaeger is basically like a triangle shape. Ethan is more round, and Searcher, the father, is kind of like very angular and kind of like a stick between them. But there's features, because it's grandfather, father, and son, like they all have the same nose, and so you could clearly tell that they're related in that way. So it felt like a very thoughtful approach to their designs.
I also thought it was funny watching them. We're going to talk about the theme of generational legacy, but watching them on screen together, because their whole thing is, I'm my own independent person, and then the isms that come out that are very similar, especially seeing Jaeger and Searcher through Ethan's eyes, sorry. As much as Searcher has always wanted to prove that he is not his father, and then Ethan's like, but you are. In like those silly fun ways, like how they both leaned on a rail, how they laugh, how they were eating their food, like those things come through, as well as then some of the bigger, deeper emotional stuff. But I thought they worked so well together, even though they're drawn differently. They have very distinct personalities. But that was so well planned because it's so integral to the story. And I thought Searcher was funny. I thought he was such a fun, quirky dad. He's not afraid to be the corny dad. Their dancing in the kitchen was my favorite scene. And I did also love that him and Meridian have such a loving, like, family relationship that they put on screen. Like, they give each other good morning kisses. They embarrass their son with how much they're in love. And he's like, oh, your parents. So I just really enjoyed Searcher as well. So thinking forward, we said this film is it's incredibly stunning. So let's talk about the setting and the visuals for this film. It's definitely a strong suit. We say incredibly creative. Here again, definitely this is where the spoilers come in. This is a lot of the plot twist actually has to do more so with the setting, which is really interesting. Did you have a favorite scene or a setting in The Strange World as we moved across landscape?
It's hard to pick because it was all so vibrant and like nothing I've ever seen before. They really challenged themselves in that regard. And that's what made me most excited to read the art book, was like, well, I can't wait to get into the settings here. I feel like I liked the Luna Glade. It reminded me a lot of, I said it's like nothing I've ever seen before, but this one in particular reminded me a lot of Pandora, the world of Avatar. I could see some parallels stylistically there. Mostly the glowing bioluminescence of that area. That's where Splat leads him into that. Or maybe is that where he meets Splat? I just know he ends up in the cave, and then there's all these blue glowing tree pieces. And I thought that was really pretty and cool to see the way Splat's gelatinous state and almost see-through, the way that was animated in that lighting.
So my favorite, especially after reading more about the different landscapes, the Windy Jungle, which is where we start. That's where they emerge when they come out of, where did they go? They like went down a cliff. It wasn't the mountains, but when they were trying, they kind of like,
they were going into a tunnel. Yeah.
And this is where we emerge after this dark tunnel, is we're in the Windy Jungle. And it's a lot of pinks, and it looks kind of like it almost looks like it's a lot of sea anemones everywhere. But when I was starting to read it, they said the Windy Jungle was based off of lungs. They studied lungs of different animals, and all of the like trees and stuff are supposed to be, was it? We said we looked at x-rays of the lungs of animals. We studied actual bronchi and bronchial tree systems, and then added our own versions, and we named them pop trees. So I loved how they took the anatomy of an animal or a human being and turned that into a setting, which leads us to the spoiler, which is all of these different lands are parts of a living organism. So we are supposed to be in the lungs, and then the acid cave, the burning sea is the stomach. So you're actually moving through a living organism, because we find out that their land is on the back of a turtle, which I thought that was so cool. That was such a great twist. I didn't necessarily see it coming, but then once you know it, like, it makes so much sense.
You can't unsee it. You're like, oh yeah, those are bloodstreams. Those are lungs. Those are arteries. I see it now.
But I really enjoyed, and I think we spent a lot more time in the Windy Jungle. That's where we have the reunification with Jaeger and Searcher, because they thought that Jaeger died, but he just kind of got stuck in his travels as he was exploring. So we spent a lot of time there. So I thought we just also got to know it a lot more. But I thought that was incredibly creative. I never would have thought of actually looking at lungs to simulate lungs. It makes sense, but that blew my mind reading that.
It's just such a unique idea all around. And in the book, Don Hall, the director, explained in his foreword how he got the idea for the film. I know you had that bookmarked. Would you like to read it and then maybe share what you think about this inspiration?
Yes. So bear with me, a little bit long of a quote here. So this is from Don Hall, the director, again, his foreword. Quote, 2017 seems like a lifetime ago. I guess in a sense it was. That was the year that Strange World came into existence. I had just come off co-directing Moana and was ready to start something new. I didn't have to look far for inspiration. It was my kids. That summer, I distinctly remember overhearing a conversation between my two sons, 13 and 10 at the time, and some other kids about climate change. Climate change wasn't real, the other kids claimed. A hoax, they said. My sons countered with logic and facts, and ultimately the argument ended with neither side convincing the other, and they went back to doing whatever it is that kids do at that age, blissfully unaware of the significance of their exchange. It certainly made a profound impression on me, though. I began to think deeply about the world I inherited from my dad, a farmer, and more important, the world my sons will inherit from me. The seed of the story was planted that day, a story about a family and adventure, different generations, and the world they share. A story about farmers and explorers, undiscovered lands, and fantastical creatures. A story about fathers and sons and legacies. End quote. So what did you think about getting that background to bring us into the story?
I didn't realize it had been in development since 2017, because that really does feel like a lifetime.
It does, pre-pandemic life.
At times. But great to know how long it had been developed and all that went into the story. I definitely appreciated hearing the anecdote about his kids and how that kicked it off for him. I love when people talk about their kids as their inspiration.
I also thought it was really cool and continues to show how relevant this story is, not only just about climate change, which is kind of the root problem that these three generations are trying to figure out. The entire plot and the setting is all about climate change, which we're going to talk about the message of the film, but also the generational piece. I really like how layered the messaging of this story is, and that it is incredibly relevant, and we see it every day. And it's also so incredible to me that he took a conversation with his kids and turned it into something so creative as Strange World.
Yeah, let's get into that message itself. So there are several themes here: generational legacy, saving the environment. Do you think that these work together? Did one stand out more than the other to you, either reading the book or watching the film?
I think they work together because, like all world problems, we all inherit them from each other, but the environment has been one that we, especially in our lifetime, I remember it coming up a little bit in elementary school, but then it became I started noticing more of these conversations when I was in high school, and now I'm teaching high school students, and it's the number one issue, one of the top issues among young voters. So seeing that over time evolve, and then knowing how different people approach it, I think the generational legacy and using climate change as the issue to show like how different generations approach it is a good analogy, and allows the two issues to work in tandem of how do we create legacies and relationships within our own families, but also what are we going to do about climate change? And this is an incredibly real issue.
Yeah, I feel they're intrinsically linked because climate change is our legacy. The changes that we're trying to make now aren't maybe necessarily within our lifetime, but to protect future generations. So they go hand in hand for me.
And in the book, they even describe that that's a key piece of their design and personalities between Jaeger, Searcher, and Ethan. Jaeger, they said, is the conqueror. So thinking about the age of exploration, we want to manifest destiny. Our job is to see what's not been seen, conquer it, bring people and ourselves and our world there. And then Searcher's called the controller. So that kind of like middle ground of maybe we don't need to conquer everything and dominate, but we need to just have a stable home, control the environment for ourselves, create a world that everyone can prosper from. And then you have Ethan, who's described as the conservationist, who is looking towards the future. What are we leaving behind, and what are we doing now that maybe looks good and feels good, but might not be sustainable in the long run? And it's really interesting to see those three aspects of how climate change has evolved over time be personified into these characters. Did one stand out more to you than the other? Like, if you had to walk away from this film, more about the environment or more about the relationships?
Like I said, I feel they go hand in hand, but I guess once you get to the reveal of like, oh, this is a living organism, you're like, oh, it's a metaphor for our Earth. And it's a living organism. So I guess ultimately you walk away with that freshest in your mind.
For me, I think the generation part stands out a little bit. Not completely muting environmental impact, but we see how it's Ethan that has to change the minds of Searcher and Jaeger. And we also see that in the film. So Pando is what's been keeping everyone alive. And Pando, the allegory for that is natural gas, or is fossil fuels, oil. And it's thanks to oil that we've been able to create plastics and build and create new technologies transportation, etc. And we see that with Pando, that Pando allows them to change their world and have their industrial revolution. And a lot of things that are good for society, like having electricity, warmth, air conditioning, things that can just make our lives better and healthier for people. But ultimately, it's killing the environment. We see in Pando when they're trying to save, they think the Pando has a sickness like plants can get. So they're trying to find the root of that. And it turns out that Pando is actually the virus. It's a growth, it's a parasite on the living organism. So even though the analogy, we've become dependent on oil is what's killing the world. The more we use it, the more we harvest it. And what we think is the villain in the story, what did Splat's family, what were they called? They were so funny looking though. They remind me of like squids. We thought they were the bad creatures because they're always trying to hunt you down. They'll kill you. They'll eat anything. But really they're based off of white blood cells. They're there to kill parasites and protect. So yeah, that whole analogy comes through, but we also see in the relationships that they have to change each other's minds because they're apprehensive of getting rid of Pando because their whole world is built on it. But now Ethan has to change his father's mind, who now, like, you have to go up the chain where each generation needs to communicate to the one above them, where they have a little bit of common ground that they can work with. Like Ethan probably wouldn't get through to Jaeger right away, but he needs to go through his dad, who kind of understands him a little bit, who then has some similarities with Jaeger, and you work your way up. And it's not until all generations can work together that we can solve this problem. Because right now, that's how we're all battling this out.
Yeah, it was a very strong story and metaphor all around. I felt that's why I walked away from the film being like, oh, I liked that better than I expected, because it was well developed.
Yeah, so any last closing thoughts on the film, the art book?
I think I might have already said it, but this was my favorite art book that we've read. And I was not expecting that when we got in the mail. I was like, oh, surprise, this movie's coming out. Let's see the movie and read the art book. But it felt the most unique to me in terms of, I think, as we just said, the story is so truly unique. So, of course, the art and the visuals are as well. So I really appreciated this one.
I think I have to agree. This was a really good art book. I think it had a good balance of text as well as art, and the explanations between the two. I read it. I know we both read it in one sitting, which for me was like 45 minutes probably I spent with this book. And then I went back and looked at the art more closely, but between the text, like the first time through. So I thought it was really balanced between the artwork and the text. And I got a lot out of it, especially for the film that has so much creativity in it, that getting that insight was good. But yeah, I just want to highly encourage people to see it. It's a great message, amazing characters. Legend, we didn't even talk about Legend, the three-legged dog. He's amazing, so cute, adorable. I hope diversity in pets as well, that we see some happy dogs out there who get to see Legend on screen. So yeah, I just want to encourage people to see it. It's a great film. You'll laugh. You'll want to go talk to your parents after. And you'll want to tackle climate change at the same time.
Very inspiring. Well, we always love to wrap up with resources to inspire you as well. So I would like to recommend podcast pal Brett's recent Notably Disney episode 108. Brett interviewed the composer of this film, Henry Jackman. So if you liked the movie and you liked the score, more for you over on Notably Disney.
And I would like to give another shout out again to Chronicle Books for always sharing these art of books with us. And kind of just want to plug that these art of books are really interesting. Like I said earlier, this is our 4th episode looking at an art of book, and we get a lot out of this, especially when it comes to new films, which has been really cool in the last 2 years, getting to dive deeper. So on our podcast, we've covered The Art of Soul, Raya and the Last Dragon, and Turning Red, but there are several other art of books. We've also received Encanto, Luca, and Lightyear from Chronicle Books. They also have others. I know I've seen Frozen before on their website, and Frozen 2. So an art of book in the holiday season we are in makes a really great gift for someone, especially an animation fan, or if they see a film that they really enjoy that's new from Disney, maybe take a look into getting the art of book, because it is really cool to get to go in on a deeper dive. Like you said, it's like a behind the scenes, but in book form. So shout out again to Chronicle Books. Thank you for continuing to gift these beautiful pieces of artwork to us.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, Clark, the whole year round. Well, on that holiday note, happy holidays to all of our listeners. We hope that you've enjoyed this season with us, and we look forward to tackling our growing to-be-read list with you next season with Disney 100th anniversary next year. We sure have plenty of books coming up that we're interested in reading, as if our Christmas list didn't already have enough books on them already. While this is our season 5 finale, we aren't quite done podcasting this year. You can catch us next as guests on the podcast Synergy Loves Company, How Disney Connects to Everything. We will share on social media when that episode is live, and we hope that you can join in our discussion with host Eric about how banned books are turned into Disney films. So you can look for that post on Twitter and Instagram at Book of the Mouse. Email us with comments or ideas to bookofthemouseclub@gmail.com, and please be sure to leave us a review on iTunes so others can find our podcast and read and listen along with us. You can keep up with me, Courtney, on Instagram at Great Gutsby and on Twitter at Courtney_Guth.
And you can follow me, Emily, on Instagram and Twitter at the same handle at Emily_McD.
Well, Emily, it is your time for our closing quote. So what have you found for us today?
So I decided to end with a quote from the head of story, David G. Derrick Jr. So this is from the book. And I thought that his caption here really caption about having a better tomorrow just really summarized the whole film beautifully, and hope that this will inspire you to maybe sit down with your families and watch this film together. So, quote, "At its heart, this is a story about legacy. What we leave for future generations can either be a burden or a gift. As we discover through the story of the Clods, legacy isn't about leaving statues behind. Legacy is leaving the world a better, healthier place for future generations." End quote.
That's beautiful, and I really do feel it sums up the film so well. So thank you for that. I hope that this podcast is our legacy to our listeners and our gift to you. See you in 2023.
Looking forward to the new year and new books.
Book of the Mouse Club has no affiliation with the Walt Disney Company. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and participants are theirs and theirs alone. They do not represent the organizations or companies they happen to work for.